Live, and here we are, we're live. Hi everyone, Christopher Power here. Today I've got a very unique interview with my friend and client, Lizbeth Hamlin. Lizbeth, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I met Christopher in the Eyes Wide Open collective, and as I was telling him a moment ago, he was the most exciting element for me, who has been a primary psychotherapist, healer, transformer of energy in people's lives, and it just all clicked in terms of how I've been functioning for probably most of my life. And now I'm making some transition, going into more soulful mentoring and not just doing pure clinical psychology work. So right. That's the simple form. I live in Northern California and have a practice in Santa Rosa, California, and San Francisco.
Great. So as you can see, Lizbeth is a very switched on woman, very experienced in psychology, and one of the most intelligent and perceptive people that I've ever met. And guess what? Elizabeth is a projector. You know, who knew, right? And Elizabeth heard about human design 6-7 years ago. And, you know, it obviously, she said to me earlier, obviously something downloaded, but when we met and we did some consultations and stuff like that, it really settled in for her and became very real in her experience. And maybe you'd like to just share a little bit about that, Lizbeth.
Well, I think that before I really understood the depth of some of the information that you've given me and studied a little bit more, I have always had something very deep inside of me that waits. And that waiting can be somewhat intolerable. And yet, if I really do hone to the true nature of my very being, things work out. And yet there is that time that I can compare myself with a manifestor or generator, feeling like I have to do it all. And I'm letting that go. And it's a lot more fun. And I'm more curious about what's going to show up and invite me than ever before.
Yeah. I might just actually share my screen with you on this one, Lizbeth, and with people watching. You'll see, just give me a moment and I'll get this happening. So can you see this now, Lizbeth?
Yes. Yes, I recognize
now
it.
This is, yes, this is Elizabeth's chart, and you can see, obviously, she is, well, she's not a generator because she doesn't have the sacral center down here, second from the bottom, defined. She's not a manifestor because none of the motor sensors here, the 3 motor sensors, are connected to the throat. So she's a projector, but a very unique projector because she has splenic inner authority, and it's connected directly to the G center, which is the center to do with love and direction in life. So here you have someone who's deeply caring, someone who's very tuned in instinctively right in the moment, and someone who comes very much from what, you know, in general New Age terms, you would say from the heart, where she has a very direct connection to love of herself, love of humanity, and a sense of direction in life with these 4 gates here. And it's all tied in with this channel here that's very much to do with the ability to survive. So if I was actually in a plane wreck or a car wreck or something like that, in a survival situation, Elizabeth is someone who I'd really love to have with me because she would know how to get out of it. But on a higher level, this is about really perfecting the form. This is about bringing out the, not just surviving, but thriving. This is the energy that really helps people get along in life, i.e. survive, but also can take them to a level where they can get the real perfection out of themselves, you know, find out what's great about them. And all her life, she's been working with people in psychology to do this. But when she said, I think I'm a manifesting generator, if you look at all the white parts of her chart and imagine that they were coloured and the coloured parts, the coloured centres and lines were white, she would be a generator from here. And then because she has motors connected to the throat through here, she'd be a manifesting generator. So what Lizbeth was saying is her not self thinks she's here to, you know, work consistently and to then, once she works, make things happen. But she's not. She's here as a projector to guide people in how they can get the very best out of themselves. That's the simplest way of putting it, reading her human design chart. Does that make sense to you, Elizabeth?
Oh, it's totally, absolutely accurate. Because, you know, I mean, I do my best work just being with people. And they let me in, I let them in, and it's like a co-creation of what needs to, in some ways, manifest, but what needs to transform in the deepest sense and in the highest sense, both directions. That really paying attention to the depth of the soul at the same time of really allowing people to be their very best selves.
Yeah. And that's when you look at her human design chart, what you see is someone who's designed to do that, but thinks and's been brought up by conditioning in life to think that she's got to get out there and, you know, work and make things happen. And Elizabeth is not someone who's coming out of nowhere with this, you know, someone who's just come off the street and for the first time is looking at, say, something like astrology or numerology or psychology or human design. Elizabeth's someone who's been living with this all her life. And even when human design first came in, human design was like, oh, okay. And this was something I talked about in one of my other interviews, is that often it's hard for people, even who are smart and intelligent, to really grasp with the language and the jargon we have in human design, you know, what's really going on here? And here's someone who's been working on themselves psychologically and spiritually for what, 40 years or more.
And you know, this map, because I've, you know, I have studied enough, you know, astrology, I Ching, Kabbalah, you know, all the maps that we have, there's something about human design that is one of, for me, the first one that really touches on the depth of my nature, of how I live in this world and how I interact with humankind. And it gives me a sense of possibility, of being more and more my true nature.
Yeah. So what's the most exciting practical thing that you've realized out of, you know, living your design? You know, what's the things that really is going, oh my God, that gives you that feeling, there's this sense of possibility?
Let's see.
That's an invitation.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Great. No, there is something about being in relationship with people, that the engagement itself in relationship in some ways lights me up. You know, it's like a switch goes on. And so my curiosity about what kind of interchange or what kind of intimacy will come if I can be so truly myself. And that can be within my work, that can be in a conversation I'm having in a cafe, or it can be with a deep friend on a walk. You know, it's like the possibility to really go, wait a minute, I don't have to do anything here except to listen, be invited, and allow things to happen of their own accord. And there's a flow that happens when I listen and I go, you know what? I don't have to do anything with this. I just have to be here. And so it's been more confirmation about allowing and being and being present. I don't have to work so hard. You know, it's and that's very freeing.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Well,
be my not self. You know.
yeah, exactly. Well, when you said I don't have to work so hard, it's like I think, oh my God, that's an anthem for projectors.
Yeah.
You know, when they get to that point where it's, oh, I don't have to work so hard, it's like, yes, you know, and it comes out
Yeah.
of their mouth, not
Yeah.
comes out of my, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? When they go, oh, I don't have to work so hard. That to
Yes.
me, just, you know, it's simple and it's so basic, but as I've said in many other videos, you know, one of my anthems is the advanced work in anything is the basics done really well. You know, when a projector really gets, my God, I don't have to work so hard. I can take a break with this. I can just enjoy my life as I'm living it. And when I'm invited, if my inner authority says yes, I can jump in and offer guidance.
Right.
And that is enough, particularly in, you know, a Western culture that so emphasizes, you know, your value depends on how much you do or how much you contribute or, you know, how much you're seen to be successful according to, you know, measures that society puts out there in the media and just in the culture. You know, you've measuring your amount of money versus somebody else's. You know, who's got the highest income, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates? You know, I mean, who cares? You know, honestly, at that level, you know, you're really trying to figure out what to do with the money, not how much money you've got.
Yeah.
And I find that I've had clients who are very, very successful by any measure externally, but they've never felt success. They've never felt successful. They've never felt that feeling of success. They've never sensed it within themselves. And that's what is so important for projectors. It's not so much how much success they have in the external world, but how successful they feel and how much they're able to guide other people into that feeling of success, from which success manifests externally. I mean, say something about that. I mean, give me some guidance on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was gonna, you know, sort of go there in a way. Is yes, I mean, I'm fortunate. I have a nice income. Can I have a better income? Sure. We all go. I could, you know, there's always more, but it's in living my design is the satisfaction and the success that comes from what I would say a job well done, meaning that I'm living my essence and being in the presence of another who I'm encouraging to live their own, and that for me is the success is of having a balanced life, a life where there's flow. There's just flow. You're flowing from one moment to the next moment. And at the end of those flows, I'm not looking back and saying, well, you should have done this, or you didn't do this, or how about that? It's more of recognizing the whole continuum of relationships and being alive, that, you know, things go through cycles, and to be able to really drop down into an embodied sense of fullness and richness, and to be able to feel that and honor that and be grateful for that. And for me,
Wow.
that's the better success.
Yeah.
Or the
That's
true
what,
success.
yeah, one of my teachers was always going on about the trappings of success are fine. You know, you have as much trappings as you want, but there's an essence to success. You know, there's something within you that you experience. And to me, as you were speaking, I was listening so closely, because the first thing you said is a job well done. And my mind went, that's the language of a generator. It's like, good job. Well, and then I just shut up and ignored that, let it just do its commentary and listen to what you were saying. And it was like, no, it's not work well. It's not like I worked until the end of the day I'm satisfied. It's just like, no, I helped this person take a step into or reach towards or move towards success. I've guided this person somewhere they need to go. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. And because I am not a person who is frightened by the mystery, or what I would call the gap, or not knowing, that I can hold that with other people as they're flabbergasted, or what's next, what do I need to do, da da da. And I go, how about just being quiet, and just listening, and seeing what is more naturally here, rather than adhering to the conditioning all around.
Yeah.
And and for me, that's such a precious gift, to be able to have just dialogue from one's nature to another's nature, to that deeper soul connection that's longing to be listened to and to be seen and to be unfold, rather than some scripted form.
Yep. God, as you're speaking, I can almost feel the people watching this. And part of me is going, can you sense the difference, with, here's a projector, just the energy of it is so different. I mean, I was talking to Lauren yesterday, and who's a manifesting generator, and just the energy of this is, the frequency, as Ra would say, is so different here, about being guided into something that truly awakens that consciousness and that feeling of success within people. And I can feel, even not only within but beyond the words that you're sharing, that happening. And I hope people watching get a sense of that, because that's projector energy. Now it comes out, I know other projectors who are really different, they're very funny and humorous and challenging, and I'm thinking of John Martin or someone like that, very different type of projector. But there's still that frequency, that quality underneath it, underneath the surface, where it just takes you somewhere. Takes you somewhere really. We all need to go. One of my teachers said there are two purposes that every human being, in fact, every entity, whether it's an atom or a tree or an animal or anything on this planet, shares. We all share these two purposes, and one is to learn to have fun. That's part of being alive. Why we're here is to learn to have fun. And I don't mean just party. That can be a part of it, but to really enjoy life. For an adult, that can mean creating a beautiful life, or being in the flow, as you were saying. But the other purpose we all share is to learn to consciously create, or just to learn to create success. In our case, and if those are the two primary purposes shared by every entity in this universe, then projectors have a huge job to do. Huge job to do, which is to help us with one of our two primary purposes for being alive, to create success, and not just create trappings of success without the inner experience of it, but to have that experience of being successful.
Well, it's an inside job, but there really is something about living from the inside out, and I think it's an art form. And I've oftentimes, with my friends and colleagues that are artists and they manifest art, in many ways I understand them, because I live it. I live what it is that life is an art form, of creativity and manifesting, enjoyment, engagement, and the older I get, my appreciation to engage with people at a very deep level is so satisfying. You know, that the recognition of the totality of what we're up against. We're up against a lot these days, and to be able to have these moments of really deep personal and transpersonal connections are rare, and I just hold to it like a, you know, I just hold to it. I'm steadfast. I'm not giving up, you know, to the importance of that deeper, you know, kind of way that we work and can work and appreciate one another for all of that in all the different manifestations. You know, it can be a rip-roaring fight, you know, and disagreement, to being moved to tears, you know, or laughing and you can't stop laughing, you know, those, you know, it's the full spectrum. It's like, don't leave anything out, you know.
Yeah, well, you're reminding me of, again, something Ra talked about, that first of all, there's this development of our inner authority. You know, in other words, the shift from making decisions with our mind into giving the decision-making process to your strategy and your inner authority. And what that does is that over time, and it takes time, it's not something you want to rush through, and you always work, you know, the advanced work in anything is the basics done really well. That's inner authority. You know, it's, you're all, in my experience, we're always working on that. It's not like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Now I've got it, tick, next, that's successful, next move on. It's like, no, inner authority is something you're always returning to and always connecting to, you know, because we leave it. We get distracted by our minds, we get distracted by life, we get pulled away. But the thing is to remember it, to come back and to reconnect consistently, and in time it becomes part of our, well, it is our nature, but we're remembering our true nature and remembering that we're in a human body and remembering that we're here to enjoy it, to have fun, you know, to be successful being in a human body. We're not here to suffer, you know. But then there's, and that develops, and it takes time for that to really grow into you through experience, you know, because human design is not something to be rushed into and achieve, you know, it's a process of true discovery in my experience. But then it comes to a point, and I remember reading something where I was talking about it, where he said he's been, he had people when he was alive around him living their strategy and inner authority for a decade or more. And he said they were very comfortable with their body. But what came out of their mouth was just the same old stuff that comes out of everybody's mouth. You know, they were just talking same old homogenized ideas and thoughts and concepts, whether they're new age or whether they're old conservative concepts or whatever. But basically he said it's not that different than anything else and really not that interesting to him. And he said because living your inner authority makes you very comfortable in your own body, and it means you can move through your life and truly enjoy your life. And life, the stress of life goes, but it doesn't necessarily take your mind to the next level, because you know, now you're no longer making decisions with your mind. I mean, what are you going to do with it? I mean, and I've said this in many videos, the mind is not here to be destroyed or transcended and got rid of. And, you know, it can move into a new transcendent function where it's no longer burdened with decision making. But where do you go from? And there's this other part of human design. Once you're strongly established in your strategy and inner authority, that is open for people to explore if that's right for them and when it's right for them. And I really emphasize that because I've explored it intellectually before it was right for me, and it was like a bunch of knowledge, you know, it was interesting. But when it was right for me to engage this stuff, oh my God, it was like the doors opened. You know, you must have this experience in your practice. People have, oh my God, everything's opened up and my life makes sense or whatever.
Yes.
And this is what they call your outer authority. And your outer authority is when you start nourishing it. It emerges when you start nourishing your brain in the way that it needs to be nourished, and you start living in an environment that really nourishes you externally. Now, that in human design is called PHS, or your personal health system, and it's a next step that's available to people if and when they're ready. So you nourish your brain and you nourish your body by, eating correctly for you in a way that really allows you to extract from your food and digest what you need to. And then you live in an environment that is natural for you, where there's no stress for you. Okay. And that really, again, takes your whole experience of your body to a new level. But then the next steps beyond that are looking at and mapping the way your mind works. And that comes through really understanding the way that you're designed to look at the world and the way your mind works, not in terms of developing massive new levels of intelligence, but developing your capacity to be truly aware in the unique way you're designed to be aware. In other words, it might not improve your intelligence, it might or might not, but it definitely not more than awakens, it makes you truly aware in the way only you are designed to be aware. And what emerges out of that is your unique way of looking at the world and your unique awareness. Now, that's probably enough.
That touches, yeah, but I think this touches into this profound place that projectors sort of struggle with. But what you just said and how it's resonating with me is during that time of all the different ways of manifesting, that's where, for me, that waiting comes. It's a very internal process of listening and not being in a hurry. And the way that I can relate it is to really remember on a cellular level what yes really feels like. And so when an invitation comes, that I can truly feel what the yes is. And then that allows me to wait between the periods of invitation. And that can be a long time. It can be a long time. I really appreciate that people struggle with that as a projector, of going, this waiting is driving me crazy. It is just filled with richness of, for me, internal work, and in some ways sort of holding a pregnancy, on the deepest level, even if it's being on the dark side of the moon, of going, everything moves in cycles. And if I really say yes to the cycle I'm in, that when the invitations come, it's pure flow. There's nothing else to do except to be present.
Yeah. See, here's where the problem lies. The mind has been spending all this thousands, tens of thousands of years being a survival tool, which really helped it grow. But it's built this whole franticness because of it. And it's not really, some people are really sensitive. And if you're going into a tough negotiation or dealing with, something that's really, strong and, a deep psychological insight, that they're really sensitive, or if they're going to war versus doing a piece of art, they're really wonderful with a piece of art, but the moment they walk onto a battlefield, it's like, I'm out of my depth, Well, the mind's a bit like that. It is an incredibly sensitive instrument. And when it's creating this, when it's looking at the world the way you uniquely designed to look at the world, and when it's aware in its unique way, and it gets to share that awareness which is what outer authority is with other people. That's like the artist doing the painting, right? But for the last
mind isn't, and it isn't here. I mean, mind is not here. Mind is all of it. It's the chakra system, it's the body, it's the aura, it's everything, because we have intelligence beyond this. This is just fools around and interprets. But the way I know I pick up energy is not here. You know, it's not in my mind. Yes, there's perception, but I'm picking it up on lots of different levels. It could just be the way a gesture expresses itself that gives me information.
Well, this is really interesting, because just before we started the interview, Lizbeth and I were talking about our unique, the way our unique minds work. You know, there's two sides to this. Half of the people watching this, half of the people in the world have what they call an old-fashioned mind that's strategic, that's designed to work by focusing on things and, you know, sorting things out, fixing problems up, being strategic, just like we did in the past.
Excuse me, just for a minute. Keep going. I just have to kneel down for a minute.
Okay, so we have these strategic minds, half of us do, and the other half of us have these minds that are really from the future, very receptive. They're not active, strategic, they're receptive and passive. And I was talking with Elizabeth about the way her mind operates, and her mind picks up information from auras, from energy, from everywhere. Now, most of the people who have a non-strategic mind, a mind that's coming from what you call the future, I'm one of them, Elizabeth is one of them, we overcompensate in life because everyone's supposed to be strategic. And so we become the overcompensating strategics. You know, we're often brought up in a way to sort of really, we're not like that, but to fit in, we have to be like that. So we really go at it, you know, and get very strategic.
Yes.
Now, Elizabeth's been working in a field that gives her more freedom not to do that. You know, in other words, her field encourages her to just, people walk in the room, and the way her mind gathers information is she reads the aura, the energy, the chemistry of people who come in, and her field of work gives her permission not to deny that. You know, she's not working in an engineering firm. She's not working on a battlefield, like I said. You know, her mind can be an artist. But most of our minds for the last tens of thousands of years have been artists having to survive on a battlefield. You know, and so the mind is adapted to, and that's turned the artist into a stronger person because they've had to deal with some really nitty-gritty stuff. They've had to survive, and that person is no longer just the delicate artist or the sensitive, tuned-in artist. They're also very street savvy. You know, that's what our mind do. But the battle's over, and our minds are going, hold on, where's the next attack coming from? And human design comes along and says, the battle's over. You're strong now, but you can go back to what you're really good at doing, but with this streetwise perspective that you have. And it's like, oh, and it's getting used to that. But it's still got post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, the mind is still going, you know, and that's what I see in so many clients, you know, post-traumatic stress disorder of the mind. You know, they're still going, I can't wait. You know, if you're on a battlefield waiting for something to happen, actually the best martial artists do, but they do it very quickly, you know, because you see them, they're so relaxed. But waiting is a natural part of life. You have to wait to give birth to a child. You can't get, you know, pregnant or conceive and then have a child. I mean, it doesn't work that way. Life is waiting for everyone, even manifestors.
Yeah.
And yet we've disconnected from that because our minds are still post-traumatic stress disorder of the mind going, you know, I've got to survive, I've got to survive. And it's like, no, relax, you're off the battlefield. This is the healing time for the whole world. You know, it's over.
And it takes discipline to really work with that, you know, more limbic brain that is still looking for the, you know, the battlefield, you know, is this sort of controversy that, you know, that we're challenged with is how easily we get frightened. Because that old limbic brain is protecting us to actually trust in, you know, gratitude and opening and waiting and allowing is it's very new for us. So maybe we're in the future sort of figuring this out of going, wow, we've been waiting for this moment to be, you know, the pioneers, you know, to walk through these next challenging years, you know, 40 years. I figure I probably have 40 years to go, you know, or 35 or whatever, you know, of to see how it really is going to unfold, you know, and to not be exhausted by it, because the 24/7 reality is really wearing everybody down, you know.
Exactly.
You know, have to really remember that we do have a nervous system that we have to care for. You know, and you know, to meditate, to exercise, to eat right, you know, and to get enough nourishment from our peeps, you know, the people that we know will heal us, and we can heal each other mostly through laughter. You know, it's the best medicine.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is, I mean, the children coming in over the next decade or so, or beyond that particularly, you know, they're not going to be the type of, a lot of them are not going to be the type of person that's going to be designed to live a 9-to-5 existence, you know. It's just not going to be that way. They're going to have brains more like what I was describing earlier, or minds, I should say. They're going to be far more receptive. The world is going to be a very, very.
I mean, they're just so alive and so deep. And the parents who have done enough work on themselves that are inviting these individuals onto this planet and being really securely attached to both parents, both mother and father, and the blend of how, you know, fathers are staying home, mothers are in the world, how they're balancing this in new ways is allowing these new souls and spirits to arrive so much more whole than I had, you know, where it was much more of a role defined, that the roles are murkier and as challenging as it can be, families are blending and in some ways relieved to blend, because being in just a, you know, a nuclear family, that is this of the past, to be in a nuclear family, you know. And so the whole trend of how to be family and how we're creating family and tribe and connections worldwide. I mean, I'm sitting in Northern California and you're in Australia. And this, I am so deeply connected with you right now.
Yeah, I can feel
you know,
it.
that I would, you know, that this sense of connection is possible regardless of time and space.
Yeah. It's so true. And that's what amazes me, that, you know, often in human design, they talk about being in each other's auras. And, you know, like projectors need to sleep alone, you know, at least 20 feet away from their partner so they can have some downtime. I mean, all of us can benefit from not having to sleep completely buried in someone else's aura. And yet, I have clients in Norway, in India, in, you know, America, it's just all over the world. And yet when we're on Skype or we're on Google Hangouts or whatever we're doing, the sense of being connected, I don't know. I'd really like to do an experiment sometime where, I come over to Northern California and meet you and see where, and I'm sure there's a difference when we're actually in each other's presence, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I know this from going to seminars with teachers of mine versus seeing them on the web. But the connection, honestly, for me, if I'm honest about it, the connection when I'm on the web with them is 95% of what it is when you're there. It's like somehow this internet or whatever we're doing, with this is allowing us to connect almost as strongly, particularly if we're willing to be open to it, almost as strongly as if we were actually in each other's physical presence.
Yes. With my clients that I do Skype with or hang out, it's so deep and so pure. And then when we're in each other's presence, we celebrate that other 5% or that other 10%. And I love to work with people one-on-one in our presence because there's something so human about it. And yet to be able to be connected at a long distance, I wouldn't give it up for anything, because it still is true to the human condition, of how we do connect.
Well, the other thing about it is you said how the mind isn't just here, but truly, I mean, the brain is here, but it also has extensions right down into the gut. The brain tissue runs all the way down into our digestive system and around it. In fact, there's as much brain down there as there is in our heads. But then our mind is very vast and very expansive, particularly at a subconscious and unconscious level. And there's levels beyond that as well, which we call our high self and various other things like that. And therefore, there is this ability, once we get really established in taking care of our bodies, because that's the one thing that we're all pretty much around the world not doing, unless you were born into a household that does yoga all the time or, whatever. Most of us don't know how to do. We're conditioned out of taking care of ourselves. And once we do that, then there's this ability of us to network through the consciousness of our mind on a much vaster level that isn't limited by time and space. I often talk to clients and various people I work with on particular things, and people are interested in this, in the fact that imagination is more real than the physical world, and that when I'm in my imagination, I literally am stepping into my energy body, and I'm not limited at that in my energy body by time and space. I can be in two places at the same time. So
like
on that level
that we have, like sometimes we'll have a dream, and that dream will linger all day long next day, and it is more real than the physical, dimensional world that we're living in. So I love how you talk about the imagination being so real.
Well, see, the old strategic way of looking at it would go, well, which is more real? And let's measure it. Is the physical reality? Oh, no, the imagination. So the dream of heaven is more real than this terrible life. I'm going to martyr myself because I'm going to get to something that's more real. That's just the old strategic way. Which is the better? I'm going to go for that. That'll be success. But the new way in which we're really opening up is like, imagination is a real reality, a very real reality, but it's energetic reality. And physical reality is very real to our body and to us. And just because it may be technically less real, more an illusion, this is the old Indian way of looking at it, the world is an illusion, and it is, it's a play of light and energy and matter and blah blah blah, but it's very real to the physical body, and it's very real to us living in it. And it's not a matter of which is more real and which one do I sacrifice. It's a matter of I have this wonderful imagination and there are realities beyond that. And all of that is helping me have this wonderful experience of being physical. And this is very real for as long as it lasts. Damn, I should enjoy it. In fact,
yes. You know, it's a great playground.
Yes.
You know, it's a wonderful playground, and it teaches us everything we need to know about suffering, sacrifice, learning, and enjoying. It has everything we need.
Yeah,
you know?
Well,
it's sort of as above, so below, you know.
Look, I keep thinking of this old thing that I learned about a long time ago. Way back in ancient history, 5,000, 10,000 years ago, outside the city, there was a temple of what they might have called the Vestal Virgins, or sometimes they were called the sacred prostitutes, or these were women who were dedicated to physical and healing through whatever it took. And often when soldiers came back from a battle or a war, they were never allowed back in the city because they were too traumatized. You know, you see that what's happened with Vietnam veterans, veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan and all this sort of stuff. They were never left back in the city. They were sent to the temple of the Vestal Virgins or the sacred prostitutes or whatever they were, the women who were the healers. And in that temple, they were healed physically, emotionally, sexually, psychologically, whatever it took, until they were considered healed enough to be allowed to go back into society. Okay, and these women were considered very, very powerful women who had a great and sacred duty towards the whole community. Well, I just see it now as here we are coming out of thousands of years of our mind being on the battlefield, and now it has to go and be healed so it can go and join the rest of life at a much more conscious level in participating in the beauty of the cycles of life, and particularly to embrace and enjoy the gift of being alive in a physical body. We don't get it forever. It's for a period of time.
And it goes really fast. So, Christopher, I'm having a little bit, it looks like I didn't bring my connector. Could you, my laptop looks like it's going to run out of juice. I apologize deeply. I'm going to try to switch over to my iPad. I just need the connection of where we are. And I'm just trying to figure out where the information is.
So if you disappear, we'll wrap this up now, but maybe you'll come back in a moment for an encore.
Okay. So it reminds me of when Homer is on the Odyssey and he gets caught with the sirens.
Okay.
You know, of how he has to linger there for a while, you know, and maybe being a projector is a little bit like that, you know, is you have to hang out in sometimes very uncomfortable material, knowing that is not just for my own good, but for the good of others.
Beautiful.
And that if I don't do my work, I cannot help others do their own.
If you don't take care of yourself,
right?
You really, see, projectors more than anybody need to take care of themselves. And when they're acting in their not self, working harder, that, you know, never knowing when enough is enough, that's at the core of it. They're not taking care of themselves. They can't take care of others. And we are only beginning to realize, myself and other generators are only beginning to realize how much we need projectors. And projectors are so needed, and we need they need to take care. In other words, once you realize that you are recognized and appreciated, you can take care of yourself. That's why being recognized, that whole sense of being recognized as a projector and then invited, is so crucial. You know?
Yeah, but it demands to be quiet. You know, having to be quiet and to listen and to not be in a hurry, you know, is really important.
Well, I see, this is how I see it. I see a lot of projectors don't realize that when they're running around trying to do things like a generator, they're distorting their advertising, they're distorting their aura, that people can't recognize them as projectors. When they actually slow down, the resonance of who they are as a projector just goes out like flashing lights, like prime advertising, and the people who need to get it. You know, it's like if you're a projector wanting to market yourself,
yes,
you know, whatever, then, you know, just be still and enjoy your life. Not even be still, just get along with enjoying what's happening in your life. And if you're cool, I love that movie Be Cool with John Travolta in it. You know, if you're just like being cool, people will get you. Your mind doesn't think so. It does.
Right. And it does take, it just takes the capacity to be in that, you know, and to embrace it and to not be in a hurry as a projector. It's not always easy because we have to make a living. We, you know, need to support things. I need to support myself. But there is another way where doing the work internally brings the manifestation externally. And we can't do it from the outside in. The outside is when the invitation comes, and then we can say yes. That is completely right on. I can engage in that 120%. And I like to do 120%. I don't like to do 40%. And I go, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I'll do that. But it's not absolutely all of me. And so learning of how amazing it is to say 120% yes is, for me, what it's all about. You know, because I want to be here. I want to be present. I want to be engaged. I want the depth of the intimacy. I want that connection. I want that celebration, that gratitude, that possibility to be lived. You know, not just in me, you know, it's in others. Because then we can begin to change the world a little bit.
Wow. I'm just soaking this in. For the first time in probably any video, I'm not just speechless because, you know, oh wow, I'm just feeling what you're saying. It's like your aura has penetrated me, and more than the words, you're guiding me through the feeling. And I have a mentor in human design who is a projector. And
I might die here, and I can't get you up on my iPad yet, so I might disappear.
We're almost going to wrap up.
With great love.
The most powerful experience I ever had with this mentor was when the two of us were speechless for 10 to 15 minutes. Where neither of us, she couldn't say anything, I couldn't say anything. We were just sitting on Skype again, just speechless.
Yeah.
And it changed my whole life. Because when we came out of that, when we finally, something emerged for us to share and say, and we finished off the conversation, afterwards I realized that was the thing that put me right in contact with the core of my human design. And I won't go into the details of that in my chart, but it really convinced me at the core of my being to be in the flow. And I mean this because I've got a 15-5 channel from the sacral up to the G center, and it was like the first time I realized that if I'm out of the flow, out of my true flow, because I've got that in my design specifically, then nothing's going to work.
Yeah.
It was a life-changing experience to just sit with a projector, feeling our energies together and being guided that it was okay to just wait and say nothing and do nothing, but just feel everything. Very, very powerful.
And it's not just emotional, you know, I mean, it's everything, you know, it's somatic. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my heart, you know, being splenic. There's, you know, it's like there's a second heart, you know, in the middle of the body that can listen, you know, that can be with, that is intuitive, that thinks all at the same time and thinks very quickly on her feet, as a matter of fact, you know, you know, it's like what it's like to be in choreography or in improvisation all the time on a certain level, and know that that is the dance that we're dancing on this planet, you know, and yet being connected at the same time. It's not lofty. It's right here.
Wow, thank you. We need to wrap this up because Lizbeth has to go. This is just wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation and the engagement, because one thing about it being a projector is the engagement is necessary for the opening. It just is.
Yes, you were saying that before we started. That was really profound. Anything you'd like to say just about that before we finish and we have to wrap up? About engagement.
Engagement is that I can disengage, and in my disengagement or my withdrawal from people or from activities is so necessary to be in nature, to take care of my body, to rest, to meditate, have a spiritual practice. It's a way of really honoring the ordinary and the necessity to do that, because when I do engage, I engage so completely. And so to be in the presence of another, whether it's on Skype, whether it's in my office, whether it's a dear friend, what it really takes to be completely present to that is an engagement. And that's what turns my switch on, is to be in the presence of another fully about what really deeply matters, and have those, what I would say, more challenging, difficult conversations, to drop everything away and just be with what's really necessary right here in this moment, and go with that. Just go with that. So,
wow. Thank you. I finally got a great education in my body about what it is to be a projector. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you. What a joy. What a beautiful dance.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and have a wonderful day. And for everybody watching this, I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been an extraordinary experience for me, and I want to thank Elizabeth again so much for spending the time with us. We'll talk again, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will.
Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful evening where you are, and I'll begin my day now. What a great way to start the day.
Okay.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Be well.
Talk to you again.
Bye.